कभी करती हैं मुलाकातें, कभी करती हैं मुलाकातें, कभी यादों में बरसातें, किताबें करती हैं बातें, किताबें करती हैं बातें। मन की गहरी झील में कूद जाती हैं कभी, सोच के दरिया के संग संग बहती जाती हैं कभी। चाहे शाम हो या हो रातें, किताबें करती हैं बातें।
Hello and welcome to our program. Please welcome on Kitabnama today Nirupama Dutt, poet, journalist, critic and translator. Nirupama, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Gouran.
Your journey with writing started with writing poetry in English and then you moved to Punjabi. First about the journey, then about the movement from what we perceive as actually a foreign language into your own mother tongue.
My poetry I started writing in my college days, and it used to be for the college magazine. And those days we had a magazine called the Youth Times, which would be edited by, the poetry section would be edited by Kamala Das. And Kamala Das was a iconic figure and everyone looked up to her. So my first poems I sent to her, and two were accepted, two short poems in English. And then I was writing in English. Once I completed my college and then did my degree in journalism and came to the newspaper office, which was in Chandigarh. I was always interested in literature and writers, and I was an avid reader. So I chose, it was an area no one wanted to write about. So I chose to become a sort of a self-styled literary critic.
Okay.
And I started writing on the writers who were around. Writers of those times. This is the second half of the 70s, 77. Those days there were a lot of Urdu writers, even in a place like Chandigarh. Urdu poets, people writing in Hindi, and of course people writing in Punjabi. The Punjabi writer has always been not just trilingual. We have writers like Khushwant Singh, who wrote in English, or Chaman Nahal, Mulk Raj Anand. Then we have writers who wrote in Hindi, Krishna Sopti, Bhisham Sani, and so many others. And of course we had writers who wrote in Punjabi. So when I would say I write and show them an odd little story or poem. So it was okay, but one of the leading poets of Hindi of that time, Kumar Vikal, he told me that, it's okay you do your journalism in English, but creative writing cannot happen in a language which you have just learned. It has to be your mother tongue. And, I was always a gullible sort, so I believed.
For the good this time, okay.
I believed. And then I thought, though I had studied Hindi in school, but I felt, why should I be writing in Hindi? If I have to write, it should be Punjabi. And we always spoke Punjabi at home. So I made small attempts to write in Punjabi.
And you didn't know the language or how to write?
No, I knew how to write.
You knew how to write, good.
But not well enough.
Okay.
With spelling mistakes and other things.
Okay.
I had studied it till class 5. Then I had moved to the northeast. I was in Shillong, so there was no Punjabi there. But I knew, Punjabi is not a very difficult script. It's easier than Devanagari. Simple script. So I started writing with the spelling mistakes. And I sent them to Amrita Preetham here in Delhi, who was editing for over 3 decades, edited a magazine called Nagmani. And she nurtured, I think, 3 generations of writers, 2 generations for sure, and even some after that, by publishing, by responding to their works, and some big names like Shiv Kumar Batalvi, the poet, Dalip Kaur, the novelist, Gurdial Singh, who was later to win Gyanpith, his classic novel Marida Diva. It was Amrita, the publisher sent it to Amrita and she had written the note. So I sent her the poems and she accepted them and I got in.
You must be thrilled.
I was thrilled and the journey began.
Prose is more descriptive, but poetry has that emotion, which is what the language brought out. But also this challenge between how do you move from experiential writing to imaginative writing? And the whole challenge is, so what is experience and what is imagination? And how do these two do a dance, a tango together?
In my case, what the critics said, that she's an experiential writer. There is less imagination and more experience. But what I did was, and I'll read out some little thing to tell you, experiential writing, but the form I would use was an imaginative form.
Okay.
The form would be a little different, and so it would not come as मैं सीता नहीं हूँ and मैं kita. It wouldn't come as a statement ever.
Okay.
So the form I experimented with, and there was imagination in employing the form subconsciously. It wasn't very conscious at that time.
All right. So as a personal experience, when you write poetry, do you feel you show more of your inner self, but writing a story somewhere has a third person element and a little distance?
True. You see, poetry comes straight from the heart. And in my case, or in many others, when there is a lot of agitation and when there is, of course it comes in happy moments also, but less. When there's a lot of pain and you don't know how to channel it and what to do about it, it's in those moments that poetry comes and holds your hand, gives you relief, and then
helps you heal.
Helps you heal, helps you understand, helps you even turn around the experience. Fiction, on the other hand, the story gives you you can distance yourself.
True, very true.
You have a historical perspective to look at. Not that you don't have it in poetry, but it is sort of a release also.
Okay.
And it is also a release from being lonely or alone. One of our Punjabi poets says that, koi kavita di sattar tere naal hoegi, jad hor koi nahi hoega. So a line of verse will accompany you when there's no one else. Poetry has that great power.
So you're also very, I think, passionate about translating and helping other people understand Dalit writing.
Basically, I am involved with all that poetry of protest, whether it was feminist or whether it was the downtrodden, whether it was people wanting a social change. So I sort of gravitate to these issues. But I first translated the poems of a very well-known revolutionary poet of Punjab, Lal Singh Dil. He also happened to be a Dalit. So through his poetry, while I was translating it, and later we became friends. I was writing on him constantly because his was an amazing life. He came from a tanner family, the first in his clan to do his matriculation, and also the first, it wasn't even, he went for a junior basic teachers training course. And then came the Naxalite movement, which was in Bengal, Telangana. The echoes came in Punjab. And a whole generation of intellectuals was swept in its fold. The movement, as you know, was crushed and it ended. And it was a movement, which sort of legitimized the violent. And so it ended with a lot of violence, which is bound to be. So other writers, poets who were with the movement went back to their class folds. Some of them became teachers, others editors. They migrated abroad, did very well. Lal Singh Dil had really nothing to go back to, and not that kind of infrastructure to support him. He went off to Uttar Pradesh and worked sort of underground, worked as a orchard keeper, domestic help, peddler. And when he returned back to Punjab, which is after the years of militancy in Punjab, you know, friends and others, but he was such an admired poet. People loved his poetry because there was nothing of a slogan in his poetry. He never says, I'm a Dalit or, you know, but yet he talks so beautifully. There's this lovely poem by him called Dance. He says, when the labourer woman roasts her heart on the skillet tawa, the elder son starts dancing, and the father picks up the thali and the katori and starts playing, and the little one laughs, and he says, you will not be able to take away this dance from us. You will not be able to take away this music, this laughter. So it was a very contemporary and very subtle poetry.
Right.
So through Lal Singh Dil, I moved on to, you know, reading and understanding Dalit poetry. And then I worked on Bant Singh. Bant Singh was again a Mazhabi Sikh, and his daughter was raped. But since he was an activist and he was also a singer, he would sing other people's poetry on the stage.
Like a bard or...
Like a bard.
Okay, all right.
So he fought the case and he won it, he and his brave daughter. And for the first time, an upper caste boy was convicted. But that made him very unpopular in the village, and they beat him so much that finally he lost his legs and arms. And in the hospital, when these were amputated, on the 18th day after the operation, he sat up on the hospital bed and started singing. In fact, the media would call him the singing torso.
My God.
So I've done his biography. And in the process, I came to the poetry of the poet he used to sing.
Okay.
Another Dalit poet, a revolutionary Dalit poet, Sant Ram Udasi, who would talk of the working class. Balda rahi ve surja, kamyan de vede. The sun should keep shining on the courtyard of the workers.
Right. When we talk of Dalit writing, we see it more as a very little to celebrate, but how they find beautiful little celebration in daily life, and the overall acceptance of saying, it's okay, life is a battle, but doesn't mean it's only about sadness, it's about celebrating life and going through. And that's
a very nicely you've put it. That I would contribute it to. This is a very important segment of Dalit writing from Punjab.
Okay.
It is celebratory in nature. That something has to do with the region and the way they look at life. You know, it has been a border region. So where every moment which is given to you, you celebrate.
So that's living in the now.
Living in the
and
now.
That's so beautiful. So you said you gravitate towards protest writing. Protest, revolution, and how we see revolution in today's context, because the scenario is changing. What is the change?
You know how one sees it, it doesn't have to be a big political revolution like that, but in small things when changes come. On one hand, you see, I talk of Punjab and the celebratory spirit, yet we still have female feticide there, which is something to be very ashamed of. So that kind of change, you know, when you are calling for equality, gender equality, you know, bringing focus to the rights of children, the unborn child. You know, these are the small revolutions which we need, which are basically in our minds, in our homes, you know.
Okay.
So it is, when I speak of women and the change, I say very little change comes from marching in the streets. It is quietly which the mother gives to the daughter, at times which the mother-in-law gives to the daughter-in-law, you know, in battling patriarchy. The little support that comes from a sister to sister, a friend to friend.
Right.
So this is why, this is what changes what one calls the status quo.
So as a woman writer, writing in Punjabi, what is the role of gender?
It is rather prominent, I would say, because we have a very feudal agricultural society. the average woman, the city woman, a Punjabi woman, would seem very liberated, far ahead of her sisters in other states, but it is somewhere very deep rooted. The right to property is denied to girls. So, in basics, one has not really changed. In the outward, the clothes, the manner, that could be very modern and all, but at the same time, there is marked discrimination.
So emancipation in the true sense, that translation has not really happened.
That hasn't really happened. And I did write from a woman's perspective, but again, it was not all victim. There were one or two which were, seeing oneself as a victim. Then it became celebratory also. One of my very famous poems is called Saheliyan.
Okay.
Female friends. Saheliyan jad kai saalan baad coffee house de table ਤੇ ਵਾਏ ਗਏ ਨਾਵਾਂ ਦੇ ਆਸ-ਪਾਸ ਮਿਲਣਗੀਆਂ ਤਾਂ ਖੂਬ ਹੱਸ ਕੇ ਝੂਠੇ ਕਰ ਦੇਣਗੀਆਂ ਉਹ ਅਖਾਣ ਜੋ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਅਲੜ ਹੁਮੜ ਦਾ ਹਾਸਾ ਬੜਾ ਛੋਟਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ. When female friends meet, the way they laugh and what they'll talk about. It was also, my poetry was considered bold. And how I place myself in Punjabi poetry, not just me, number of women writers, we saw ourselves as daughters of Amrita. I very proudly say daughter of Amrita Pritam, because she had broken the glass ceiling for us.
Absolutely.
Who could have been a pioneering writer and so bold to want to live life at her own terms, to reject a marriage, to live with a man and write about it and talk of freedom.
So the connotation of wicked was a twinkle was brought in and say, okay, so maybe wicked and proud. Okay.
Wicked and proud. You know what, still in conservative society, there are certain things which, certain symbols, outward symbols, which may count you as a wicked woman. So this was more of a satire at them. Well, I am wicked,
Okay.
So in Punjabi, it is called Buri Aurat. May I recite it for you in Punjabi?
Please.
ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ ਆਓਗੇ ਤੇ ਬੁਰੀਆਂ ਔਰਤਾਂ ਦੀ ਫਹਿਰਿਸਤ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੇਰਾ ਨਾਮ ਵੀ ਦਰਜ ਪਾਓਗੇ. ਮੇਰੇ ਕੋਲ ਉਹ ਸਭ ਕੁਝ ਹੈ ਜੋ ਇੱਕ ਬੁਰੀ ਔਰਤ ਕੋਲ ਹੋਣਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਲਾਜ਼ਮੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ. ਹੱਥ ਵਿੱਚ ਛਲਕਦਾ ਜਾਮ ਹੈ, ਮੇਰਾ ਖਿਲੰਡਰੀ ਹਾਸਾ ਬੜਾ ਬਦਨਾਮ ਹੈ. ਮੂੰਹ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਲਦੀ ਅੱਗ ਹੈ, ਦਿਲ ਧੜਕਦਾ ਹੈ, ਥਿਰਕਦੀ ਮੇਰੀ ਰਗ ਰਗ ਹੈ. ਪੈਰਾਂ ਥੱਲੇ ਸੜਕ ਹੈ, ਉੱਪਰ ਖੁੱਲਾ ਆਸਮਾਨ ਹੈ. ਮੇਰੇ ਕੋਲ ਸਹਿਣ ਦਾ ਹੌਸਲਾ ਹੈ, ਮੇਰੇ ਕੋਲ ਕਹਿਣ ਦਾ ਸਮਾਨ ਹੈ. So it also spoke of environment. And the same short poem in English, Wicked Woman. So Buri Aurat became the wicked woman. If you come to my city, you are bound to find my name in the roster of wicked women. I have all that it takes to be as wicked as they come. I have a goblet brimming over in my hand. My laughter is known for its abandon. Flames find a home in my mouth. My heart beats and every little nerve does a dance. The road is at my feet and just the sky above. I have the courage to bear and express myself sans fear.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Nirupama, for actually showing us where wicked and angel meet, and actually it's the same, it's about perspective, and for helping, I think, our viewers understand that it's important to be who you are as long as you understand who you are. But thank you so much for actually making this a very celebration oriented program.
Thank you so much, Gouran. It was a pleasure.
Pleasure too.
Talking to you.
I'm Anushka Ravishankar, and I'm going to read from the first chapter of my book, Moin and the Monster. It's been illustrated by Anita Balachandran. Moin gets a monster. One night, in the dim darkness of his room, Moin heard something shuffling and sniffling under his bed. "Who's that?" he squeaked. "A monster," said a shrieky kind of voice. Moin flashed his torchlight all over the room. Nothing. Monster, where are you? He asked in a wobbly whisper. A monster, stupid, not a bonster. A monster? Where are you? Asked Moin. Under the bed, obviously, with a very dusty old suitcase and a pair of blue socks which are horrible at its belly. That's why I'm holding my nose. Oh, so that's where they are, said Moin. I was looking for those socks. The pair of rolled up blue socks came shooting out from under the bed and hit Moin on the nose as he leaned out of bed. Ow, thanks. But why are you under the bed? How do I know? That's where monsters always are. Some stupid monster rule, I suppose. If I knew all the rules, I wouldn't be here. Moin flashed the light under the bed. But I can't see you, he said. That's another monster rule. You can only see me if you draw me. Moin was confused. But I can only draw you if I see you, he said. If you don't draw me, I'll have to stay invisible forever, said the monster. Moin didn't reply. He had a feeling that an invisible monster was better than a visible one. You have to draw me, the monster shouted. It's the monster rule. But I'm not a monster, Moin pointed out. If you disobey the rule, you'll turn into a suitcase. But how can I draw you when I don't know how you look, asked Moin. I can describe myself, can't I? Then you can draw me. Moin was not at all sure about this. Once in art class, he had drawn a horse and the teacher had thought it was a map of Maharashtra. So now he labelled all his drawings carefully, and even then, his art teacher always wrote "ha" on his paper. Still, he didn't feel like turning into a suitcase. Suitcases were rectangular and boring, and people were always sitting on them or shoving them under beds. So he switched on the light, got out his crayons and a piece of paper, and waited for the monster to describe itself. The monster began to sing in a high pitch which sounded quite horrible with its shrieky voice. Eyes like flames and nose like pails, ears like horns and teeth like nails, a scary, fearsome sight to see. Monster, monster, monster me. Wait a minute, shouted Moin. What do you mean nose like pails? You mean you have more than one nose? Oh, bah, what a silly boy I've got. I mean my nostrils are as deep as buckets, of course. Why can't you say what you mean then? The monster started singing again. Skull-shaped mole on rock-like chin, long green hair and purple skin. In the dark you'll scream to see, monster, monster, monster me. Drum-shaped chest and arms like trees, bamboo legs on feet like skis, terrifying as can be, monster, monster, monster me. There was silence as Moin carefully drew the monster, part by part, slowly, carefully and precisely. When he finished, Monster said, hold up the paper. I'll look at it as if I'm looking into a mirror and then I'll appear. So Moin held up the paper and the monster appeared. I'll now read the first chapter of the same book in Hindi. मोइन को मिला एक राक्षस. एक रात अपने कमरे में घुप अंधेरे में मोइन को अपने बिस्तर के नीचे किसी की घिस पिस करने और नाक सुड़सुड़ाने की आवाज़ आई. कौन है? वो चिचियाया. एक राक्षस, एक किकियाती सी आवाज़ ने कहा. मोइन ने अपनी टॉर्च की रोशनी पूरे कमरे में घुमाई. कुछ भी नहीं. एक राक्षस, तुम कहाँ हो? उसने थरथराती फुसफुसाहट में कहा. एक राक्षस बेवकूफ़, एक राक्षस नहीं. एक राक्षस? तुम हो कहाँ? मोइन ने पूछा. बिस्तर के नीचे, जाहिर सी बात है, एक धूल भरे पुराने सूटकेस और एक जोड़ा बोझों के साथ, जो बेहद ख़राब और बदबूदार है. इसलिए तो मैंने अपनी नाक बंद कर रखी है. ओह, वो तो वे मोज़े वहाँ है. उन्हें मैं तो ढूंढ रहा था. जब वह बिस्तर से नीचे झांक रहा था तभी एक जोड़ी गुड़मुड़ मोज़े बिस्तर के नीचे से सरर से निकले और मोइन के नाक पर जा लगे. उई, शुक्रिया. पर तुम वहाँ बिस्तर के नीचे क्यों हो? मुझे क्या पता. राक्षस हमेशा वही होते हैं. शायद कोई उटपटांग राक्षस नियम हो. अगर मुझे सारे नियम मालूम होते तो मैं यहाँ थोड़ी ही होता. मोइन ने बिस्तर के नीचे टॉर्च की रोशनी चमकाई. पर मुझे तुम नज़र ही नहीं आ रहे. यह एक और राक्षस नियम है. तुम मुझे सिर्फ तब देख पाओगे जब तुम मेरा चित्र बनाओगे. मोइन उलझन में फंस गया. पर तुम्हें देखकर ही तो मैं तुम्हारा चित्र बना सकता हूँ, उसने कहा. अगर तुम मेरा चित्र नहीं बनाओगे तो मैं हमेशा ही अदृश्य रहूँगा. मोइन ने जवाब नहीं दिया. उसे लग रहा था कि एक ना दिखने वाला राक्षस एक दिखने वाले राक्षस से बेहतर है. तुम्हें मेरा चित्र बनाना ही होगा, राक्षस चिल्लाया। यही राक्षस नियम है। पर मैं तो राक्षस नहीं हूँ, मोइन ने बताया। अगर तुम नियम नहीं मानोगे तो तुम एक सूटकेस बन जाओगे। पर तुम्हारी शक्ल सूरत जाने बिना मैं तुम्हारा चित्र कैसे बना सकता हूँ? मैं कैसा लगता हूँ ये मैं बता सकता हूँ ना, तब तो तुम मेरा चित्र बना सकोगे। मोइन को इस बात पर कतई भरोसा नहीं हुआ। एक बार चित्रकला की कक्षा में उसने एक घोड़ा बनाया था और टीचर जी ने सोचा था कि उसने महाराष्ट्र का नक्शा बनाया है। सो अब वह अपने बनाए चित्रों पर उन चीज़ों के नाम लिख देता था और जो उसने बनाई हो, पर तब भी कला की टीचर जी हमेशा उसके पन्ने पर हा लिख देते थे। फिर भी मोइन एक सूटकेस नहीं बनना चाहता था। सूटकेस चौकोर और सब उबाऊ होते हैं और लोग हमेशा या तो उन पर बैठते हैं या फिर उन्हें बिस्तरों के नीचे छिपा देते हैं। सो मोइन ने बत्ती जलाई और अपने रंग बिरंगे क्रेयॉन और एक कागज़ निकाला और वह इंतज़ार करने लगा कि राक्षस अपने शक्ल सूरत को बयां करे। राक्षस ने कहा और ऊंचे स्वर में भयानक चिचियाती आवाज़ में गाने लगा। लपटों सी आंखें और बाल्टियों सी नाक, हॉर्न से कान और कील से दांत, डरावना भयानक सा राक्षस 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 मैं।